to start. So again, welcome. We had an excellent talk that was specifically about the green hydrogen economy, as we heard from Sven. What I'll do is actually take a step slightly higher up, look at it more holistically, and then not look at how Oman can be sustainable in general, but just focusing on the energy-related elements that the Ministry of Energy is responsible for. So what I'd like to present to you today quickly, within 10 minutes, is the drivers for energy transition for Oman, and then to look at the key instruments that were implemented by the government to enable this energy transition. We'll move across the initiatives that have been actually implemented from a policy and regulatory perspective in the domains of renewable energy and hydrogen. And then I will conclude with some of the policies that were issued to show traction of how things are moving forward, inshallah. So if we look at the energy transition, and it's very important to know what your objectives are. And for us in Oman, there are 5 objectives to why we want to have energy transition and how it comes into a holistic, sustainable development for Oman. First and foremost is energy security. As you see the geopolitics that's going around, first and foremost, what comes at the base of a Maslow pyramid of needs is always energy security. That's the base that you need to secure. So while hydrocarbons are available, we know that Oman's profile is going to deplete, whether by the natural existence of it or because of external pressure of decarbonization globally. So bringing in energy forms, primary energy forms that are independent from oil and gas is extremely important. And that also takes us into the decarbonization in an orderly fashion to ensure that there are synergies between this energy transition and economic benefits for the society. We heard about having it integrated. These are all elements that we look and think about deeply. We have enabling developing the capabilities themselves. So it's not just onshoring the projects, but actually creating job opportunities, creating innovation space for the natives and the residents in Oman, and international collaboration. Then we have the two things that are related to economy. We have creating new economies that don't exist today based on renewable energy, green hydrogen, and decarbonization, as well as maintaining the existing sectors of energy that we do. So oil and gas is still primary to us. Simply, we need to clean it up and ensure that it matches the global trends of decarbonization. With that, what the government did is that in 2023, the Renewable Energy and Green Hydrogen, or the Hydrogen Director General in the Ministry was created. This is to show focus and dedication to the file. We also launched Hydrogen Oman, that is the orchestrator for the green hydrogen sector itself. Yesterday, you saw the launch of Oman Net Zero Center. That particular file has actually been in the works for over a year and a half, but yesterday we were blessed to see the official inauguration of it. And then we have the formal adoption of the Oman Energy Transition Strategy, which I'll be showing you soon. So when we looked at our energy strategy, and that itself is a whole deep study, this is just a snapshot of the key elements that came out and targets that are going to be implemented across Oman. What I'd like to draw your attention is to the renewable energy portion of it. So you can see that, or some of you that are familiar with Oman know that originally we had a target of 30% by 2030, and anywhere between, actually in Vision 2040 it used to be 20% and then got upgraded to 30%. We had 35 to 39% by 2040. That has now been upgraded. So what we're looking at is 30 to 40% by 2030, 60 to 70% by 2040. And then when we come to 2050, we actually say clean energy instead of renewable energy or electricity, so 90 to 100%. So this is where elements such as generation using hydrogen potentially could come in, or continuing to have our gas-fired power plants, but with CCS included into it, yielding green and clean electricity. We still have the hydrogen-related targets. Those, of course, are being challenged with the market realities that are happening. We're still pushing forward to see what of that can be achieved, so setting a high bar. But realistically, we're looking at how we can help the existing projects achieve. And the previous talk is actually very much in line with what we're doing. While we were originally very much export-centric, we have a significant shift from a government perspective to looking at how we can, in fact, consume hydrogen locally. You will see policies coming out later this year related to ensuring that there are quotas for industries such as steel and iron to, in fact, adopt hydrogen, low-carbon hydrogen. So these elements are coming in. CCS, we have finalized the framework, which consists of multiple files. This will be launched, inshallah, next month. It was signed off earlier this month. And then the number of studies. So there are a lot of studies that are being done by a lot of members of the society, whether it is the government itself or state-owned enterprises or partners. And all of these are collated holistically by the government. In our case, the Minister of Energy, the files that are related to us, and we synthesize them into a policy and then pass it on to the regulators and to the state-owned companies. For example, gas allocation, linking that with hydrogen consumption is being taken into place. We're looking at, for example, the blue hydrogen I mentioned earlier on. Energy storage and the optimal energy mix, these are extremely crucial. When we look at our electricity and we set all of these targets, we as a government were challenged by the electricity sector. We worked with them, we came up with those targets, but they said, allow us to give our own independent view. We said, please go ahead. We delayed the launch of our Oman energy transition strategy by 6 to 9 months to allow them to run their own challenge. They ran it, 10 different scenarios. If they wanted to achieve net zero by 2050, then they had to meet the targets we had. In fact, they stated that by 2040, they needed to have more aggressive targets than what we have. We also looked at the bulk supply tariff, so the associated cost by decarbonization. There is always going to be a cost related to energy transition. Of course, there are opportunities, but we should also be honest that there are costs associated. When we looked at the delta in price by achieving and sticking to this energy transition, it was a single digit of change in the price of the electricity across these 25 years going forward. With that, the government decided that we are going to stick to these. Of course, we need to keep on learning from challenges. We saw what happened in Spain and Portugal earlier with the high penetration of renewables. So learnings will continue to be there, but we are determined and steadfast on sticking to the decarbonization pathway. Some of the policies that we worked on that should be notable to you, the auto generation direct sales and wheeling was published in January earlier this year. What that does, it enables the market players to move away from our centralized electricity market and to transact. So you have eligible generators and eligible consumers, which have to go through the regulator APSR. But now you can have transactions that happen outside the spot market and outside the NPWP procurement method. It will still be controlled by the government to allow an orderly transition from a rigid centralized market to a liberalized one, but it opens opportunities to developers. The others I will keep. I'm happy to chat with you outside the talk over here to go through them, inshallah. With that, I conclude my talk and I pass it to the next speaker. Thank you.